Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Good evening. Really nice to see a really great turnout. Just the preliminaries. Fire exits are pretty well signposted, so you have to say these things. So do observe them. Telephones, if you could keep them turned off, and all your personal sort of data stuff would be really good. I have to say that we are having the meeting. On the telephone here, the video here, which we're actually only showing the top table, and it'll be screened and the voice recorded, and the meeting will be on the Brightlingsea town website tomorrow. So if you want to hear that, that's very good. I just want to say a warm welcome to you all. We've got members here from Brightlingsea, Thorrington, Alresford, and so on. On the top table, we have Jane Chapman, Councillor Jane Chapman. Thank you very much taking all the notes tonight. We've also got the Thorrington Parish Council, which is really very useful to have them here. I think it's Jeff and Sheila. Thank you very much for coming. If anybody's got a question particularly about Thorrington, because this is very much an issue about Thorrington. And of course Alan Goggin, who will be giving the main presentation, which is really good. So we're here to update you about this the replacement minerals local plan review, and we hope that you find that really interesting. And we've put together a little video. The Town Council will have a separate meeting next week to decide its response to this mineral review, but we are very much here tonight to hear your views. So we would like to hear what you've got to say before the Town Council makes its response. It's important to note that the Town Council response will be one response, and every response that you make after this meeting will be one response. So it's really important you do respond to this review today, to have your say, as they say. So the agenda tonight is we'll go to Alan Goggin, who will give the full presentation. Then we'll go to a question and answer, which I'll hold if that's okay. We'll give everybody no more than 2 minutes, and I'll time it, because just allow lots of people to answer questions. And we'll try and answer them and take your points. And then after that, we will tell you how to make your responses count, either by logging on the computer or by post. So you have those two options, which we'll show you and step you through later on. So without any further ado, I will ask Alan Goggin to start the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome. Thank you for Brightlingsea Town Council for organising tonight. It's similar to other parish councils. There was one at Alresford last week, there was one at Thorrington over the weekend, and the one at Great Bentley is this coming Thursday between 4:30. So thank you for Brightlingsea Roundtable for organising, and most importantly, thank you for all turning out and taking an interest in our community. I think I've got to start off by saying I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert on anything to do with minerals. I'm not an expert on anything to do with planning. I've never touched planning in my life. Although I'm not an expert on minerals, I've been on a steep learning curve in the last 2 months. And my role here tonight is to give you the procedure system, to show you how the system works, why we're at the stage we're at, and how you and your residents, every resident, is going to make sure that they get their views known. The key word is consultation. This is a period where consultation is key. I have to be slightly bold. If you don't take part in the consultation, your voice isn't heard. If you want to put something on social media, that's fine, but no one is going to take those numbers if you want. So the key thing is consultation. I imagine that with the combined efforts of Alresford, Great Bentley and Thorrington, I'd be really disappointed if we didn't have 2,000 replies. So that's the target level that I think we should be aiming at. I'll do my best to answer questions, but I think the first thing we should get clear is the issue itself is from central government. At this stage, Essex County Council and Thorrington and Great Bentley and Brightlingsea have little or no say over what's going on. Central government insists that county councils have a preparation, have a plan, have a system that will show how they will supply their various minerals over the next 7 to 10 years. The last plan was 2014, so it's about time for a new one. So just to make it perfectly clear, whilst Essex County Council will have an input at some stage, the requirement for having a forward plan for minerals is from central government. And just to let you know, what everybody's trying to avoid is if you don't have a plan, the last thing anybody wants, and I think the last thing you would want, would be for central government to impose one. And central government would make the decisions. So the whole point about this exercise is really to make sure your voices are heard. I like 3-word sentences. So tonight, the 3 words that I'm going to repeat time and time again is RAG. That's the first one. The second one is mitigation. And the third one is apportionment. It'll all come clear as time goes on. So, where we are at this stage, this is nothing to do with planning. This is not a planning exercise. It's got nothing to do with planning. Planning is a further step which will come later down the line. At this moment in time, there are no preferred sites. There are no preferred sites. Nobody wants one site over another. There is no such thing as preferred sites. That will come, but way down the line. So central government have said they have got each of us, each of you, each council have got to come up with all the minerals that the country needs. So we're talking about chalk, brick clay, brick earth, silica sand. But in tendering, of course, we're very rich in sand and gravel. An obvious statement, most of you will have understood this, is that you can only mine minerals where they are. That's why there are 13 sites put up for consultation in tendering alone. There's another 6, I think, in Colchester. There's 14, I think, in Braintree. That may not be right. But as a good example, we're sitting here talking, there are no plans in Brentwood, there are no plans in Harlow, there are no plans in Castle Point, there's no plans in Basildon or Rochford. And the simple reason is they haven't got any sand. But they may have other stuff. So for instance, they may have other minerals that we or other parts of the country need. Apportionment is a word that I think some of you may not know, but it's worthwhile pointing out. Over the last 7 years, 80% of the sand mined in Essex stayed in Essex. 80% of the sand actually mined in Essex was used in Essex. 20% of it had to go somewhere else. And these are difficult words, but this word apportionment says that whilst Essex County Council have to supply this 7, 8, 10, 15-year plan for what they will use, they have to find the stuff that they don't have but will need. And a good example is granite, I don't know if we've got any engineers in the room, but a very large part of the building materials for roads is granite, so that has to be mined. No granite I don't think there's any granite in East Anglia, I may be wrong. So we have to do that. But equally, the government puts upon Essex County Council and other county council a thing called apportionment, which means that we have to make allowances for what we're going to use and for what our nearest neighbours want but don't have. So again, just a picture to paint you a picture. 20% of the sand that is produced in Essex is going somewhere else. A large proportion of it is going to London. Because if you imagine, most of you will know what London's about. It's a lot of clay. They've got virtually no sand and gravel, or not in any great heaps. So our apportionment has to take into account what we want and then what our nearest neighbours want. And on the other side of London, places like Surrey and etc., they're doing the same thing. The forecast demand over the next 10 years, on a rolling average, is historically about 4 million tonnes per year. Essex County Council have revised that downwards to 3.9 million tonnes. And currently, what we've got currently, the sand and ballast that we're mining at the moment will run out in 2029, based upon figures. So, somebody somewhere has to begin to start looking at where the sand and ballast that we want is going to come from. We've got various people here tonight from various places. Just for the sake of simpleness, if you don't mind, I'm just going to focus on a thing called A74, which is the Thorrington one that we've got. I've got in my patch. I've got two at Ulsford and I've got another one at Great Bentley. But the point I'm going to make are the same for each one. So whatever I'm saying about the Thorrington site applies equally to the others. Essex County Council have a system. It started 2 years ago. We worked out there was a requirement for sites, and something like 56 sites were put forward. Just focusing on the Thorrington one. Thorrington site is owned by Cambridge University. I think it's St Peter's College.
Trinity.
Trinity. Oh, well, they are. Okay, Trinity College. It's so they're at this moment in time they're driving this particular thing. So the future consideration is about you people, us residents, us parents, us fathers, us daughters, our grandchildren. What we're going to leave them is in our hands. The current report, I hope nobody's actually read it, it's 400 pages. It's 100 pages of stuff, individually looking at each one, and then there's another 250 pages of appendices. I'll be blunt, I have focused on the ones that are in my division. I've had a casual look at a few of the others and thought, no, I don't really know about that. So what I'm going to do tonight is concentrate on the 7 pages that are called the A74. Now, we had some troubles earlier on. We didn't have a screen, so we arranged to hand out some handouts. How many people have not got an A74 in front of them? Is there anybody who can't share or look over off someone's shoulder? There's a few around.
There's some down here.
Some of the councillors.
These aren't A74s.
What grade 74?
That
one? This one.
Yeah, that one. What's that one?
That one, yeah. So A74. So if you've got any more, you can take them around. Oh, there you go, that's that one. Who hasn't got one?
John, can I have one here? Sorry.
Anybody not got it? Okay. So this is A74, and on page one, you'll get a list of items which have been assessed. Essex County Council's view, which is the view of several other councils, is that because we are the authority that will make the decision, so Essex County Council will make the decisions. What they didn't want to do was do the research or do the consultation. So far, everything that's in the public domain about the consultation and about the future is from a completely independent source as opposed to the County Council. That's a view that the County Council have taken. I think it's a good one, because what you end up with is this document. And I'm very pleased to say that this document wasn't originally for public consumption. It was a document that was prepared for members, that's people like me, 75 county councillors. It was a briefing we attended, and I thought it was first class. And I wanted to make sure that everybody saw it. So the first thing I did was got permission. Second thing I did was I made sure that each of my 5 parish councils got a copy of it, asked them to email it to all of their councillors, and then went public with it in terms of the social media. So this is a completely independent survey looking at A74. So some pretty obvious things, really. On page 1, you will see a list of. Can I have that one?
Yep, you can. That one. No, good, that one.
That's it. That one. Next one. Next one. Next one. Next one. That's it. So I don't know. Can you all see that, or can you read it on your thing? If you have a look at it on your thing, you will see that there are key areas about any site that puts itself forward.
Yep.
And amongst those are landscaping, visual sensitivity, biodiversity, historic buildings, archaeology, flooding, transport, access, public rights of way, geo-environmental, hydrology, air quality, soil quality, services and utilities, health and amenity, the green belt, and the last one, airport safeguarding zones. So those are the points that Essex and the independent consultants feel are key to making the right decision. The purpose of going to consultation now is if there's anything that's missed off, then we want you to let us know about it. If it's not included in here somewhere, we will need to know about it, and we need to know your opinions. And then you get this, the first of my words is RAG. There is a bit of humour somewhere, but just a bit difficult. RAG, red, amber, green. So if something's red, in this terms, it's bad. In your terms, it's good. Because there will be people in the room with different views. I suspect there may be more people who'll be pleased with a red than anything else. So if something's red, that means it's difficult, it's awkward, it's impossible, it's expensive, and unlikely to go forward without a huge amount, the second word, which is mitigation. Green, at the other end, is the opposite. So from some people's point of view, a green is a good thing. I suspect, from your point of view, it's a bad thing. Amber is in the middle, so it's neither good nor bad. it's amber. And just to make life equal, there is a little gap between amber and red, and it's called red amber. And guess what? Between amber and green, there's another little slot, which is called amber green. So on that page, on the page that's in front of you, it looks like this. You will see the categories that we've talked about, and you will see the colour code, the RAG coding on there. So as a good example, the very first one on there is landscape and visual sensitivity, and it's amber. The second one is biodiversity, and it's red amber. So at this moment in time, that's the independent consultant's view, and these are highly qualified, highly authorised people. That's their view. But red, amber, green doesn't mean anything unless you understand what it means. Next one. That's it. So here we have what they mean. Right, so if something is analysed as red, it says the impact is likely to be serious and mitigation to make the site acceptable would be difficult. So addressing a room that's full of people that would rather not have it, that's a good thing. At red amber says, again, the impact is likely to be major and is likely to require high levels of mitigation to make the site acceptable. So imagine that, the impact is likely to be major and is likely to require high levels of mitigation to make the site appropriate. Amber is in the middle. The impact is likely to be moderate and is likely to require medium levels of mitigation to make the site acceptable. And then amber green, the impact is likely to be minor and may require low levels of mitigation to make the site acceptable. Green, there is likely to be no impact that requires mitigation. The consultation is a bit of a beauty parade in reverse. There are 52 sites. Rest assured that in 51 other meetings, somewhere, there's another group of people with similar motives, similar aspirations, similar ambitions, to try and make sure that the extraction doesn't take place in their village. So if this group wants to be successful, you've got to make sure that you emphasise and understand the difference between the red ambers and the greens. And the more red you can get, the less likely is the thing to go ahead in the first place. 2014, there are still 4 sites from 2014 that have not raised a single piece of sand. They just didn't make it, haven't made it. The need wasn't there, it wasn't economically viable, it didn't happen. So of the 52, and this is where we're into this ether of not knowing, so we're looking 10 and 15 years forward. We don't know what the demand is. The demand over the last 10 years has been less than it was anticipated. We assessed it at about 4.2 million tonnes. It turned up about 4. But in the middle of it, there was COVID. So there's a big break period of a couple of years where the works that people thought were going to go on didn't go on. So we're estimating that we need 3.9 million. We do not need 52 sites. 52 sites would produce too much. there wouldn't be the market. The price would be very difficult. So of the 52 sites, and almost, I think I can say this, every single person in this room, I'll always say bar one or two, wants schools, hospitals, roads, some want houses, starter homes, homes for individuals with key learning issues. They want all those, and all of those require some element of minerals somewhere down the line, even down to the glass and that. So that's what we're battling with. There's a demand for all these things. The problem is trying to meet the demand and cover the aspirations of the residents. The Mayor mentioned about the Town Council having the decision and making a decision, and he's very, very right. A decision from Brightlingsea Town Council saying we are in favour, we're opposed with this, is one voice. My recommendation is that once the council has made a decision, that the individual councillors then make a further application. If I can be rude, if there are people in the room that have a strong feeling about the consultation and want to put their views forward, then do that. I suggest that if your spouse or your partner has similar views or even different, that they do the same. Because that's the only, a husband and Mr. and Mrs. Smith sending in a note, one vote. Brightlingsea Rugby Club, one vote. Brightlingsea Town Council, one vote. Brightlingsea Town Councillors, by perhaps this time next week, 12 votes. So I'd urge you to do that if that's what you think is. As I said to you before, social media is interesting, but ultimately, apart from creating an impression, it doesn't carry a lot of weight with the people that are going to look at the consultation details. So if you're going to do a campaign, I urge you to do that. Brightlingsea and District is well known for being opinionated. Thank you. Well known for being opinionated, and this is an occasion when we do want to see them, but we want to have them in qualified, quantified details. So you can send me as many emails as you like. All I'll do is send them on to the consultation people, but that will go under one name. So that's that. So in terms of, Rick will tell you in a minute about how you can take part, but I think it's important that you end up with this as a feeling. If you do not put your consultation in, your opinion will not be heard. If the County Council don't come up with a list of preferred sites that meet the demand for the 3.9 million tonnes a year for the next 10 or 15 years, that does not mean that it will stop any building, roadwork, hospitals, schools. It just means that the sand will come from somewhere which would be dictated to by the government. At this moment in time, looking at the RAG system, the Thorrington site is in the top 10% of the bottom 10%. It has more reds and more amber reds than some of the others. If you're going to go about this in a way, you've got to, in my opinion, you've got to re-emphasise the reds. You can't let somebody else in another parish move your red down to red amber. You've got to make sure that if it's red here, it stays red. If there's a red amber that you think you could put some effort into, to put some work into, to put some details into, to put some enthusiasm into, to turn a red amber into a red, that's a good thing. And if there are ambers which you think, oh, the further up towards the red and red amber you can get your list of sites is, the more successful you're likely to be. And as I say, if you don't do it, someone will do it for you. And that is not what we want. As I say, I apologise for the length, but I think it's something that needs to be said. My role here tonight is to make sure you understand the system and try and work the system to get what you want. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Well, that's lovely. Thank you very much. That was a very good presentation. Just would like to ask if Jeff or Sheena wishes to say anything at this moment, or would you like just to answer questions?
Not at the moment, thank you. We'll wait to see what the crowd wants.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick welcome to Gary Scott, who's the chairman of the Tented District Council, I see in the audience as well. Okay, this is the time when we welcome those questions and answers. What we'd like to do is ask John to take the microphone round to you. If you could put your hand up, who would like to ask a question. If I pick you up, just get the microphone and say your name so that we can get it down on the notes by Jane here. And then we'll listen to it, and then we see if we can get any answers for you. Any questions? There's one here. Thank you.
I know his name.
Jane said she knows your name.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. What I would like, there doesn't seem to be any notification on the red, amber or green thing, is noise. Now, there will obviously be salting this gravel, and anybody who's been down Overhan's Lane when that was still operational, I live down Church Hill, which is about half a mile, 3/4 mile away, and we could hear it all day during the working day. It's going to be tremendously noisy for everybody in Thorrington, and I'm still going to be able to hear it where I am now. And people who live in Brightlingsea are going to be able to hear it rumbling away all day. So I would like, if possible, that this could be added to the notes, that the noise factor should be added in there.
I think that's a very good point.
You make a good point. I think it's some.
I couldn't see it anywhere.
I think it's further in the 100 pages, right. And under. But this is precisely what we want. We want you to say you haven't included noise, therefore I'm against it. Or can you tell me what your mitigation is? There might be some issue that they could put. For those people who live on the Thorrington Road, you may have remembered 20 years ago the strange barrier that went up on the left-hand side of trees and bushes. Well, it's pretty obvious what that was for.
Everybody knew that, Alan,
yeah.
Because I know Dave Gibbons, and that was there as a preemptive for this going up. So that's been there 20 years.
Yeah. So definitely you write in and do make that. And anybody else that feels that that's a key issue.
Yes, I think noise is a very good point. Yes, John. Gentleman there.
I lived here from Brightlingsea end of, or sorry, the Thorrington end of Brightlingsea Road.
Okay.
A note on here is air quality right across the scale is green. I wonder how they've assessed that, bearing in mind anybody that lives bordering the fields around this proposed site has to close all their windows depending on wind direction when they're harvesting crops there, otherwise you get a house full of dust. Okay, it's not going to be crop dust, but we're going to get soil, etc. dust, and yet that's green. Surely that should come somewhere on the scale above that.
I think that refers to where it is at the moment. I think that refers to where it is at the moment, as in because there's no works or nothing going on. Hardly, there's a bit of harvesting. I think it's green because of that. So once again, you've got to say in your reply. I want to emphasise the fact that I've had one person sent me a very technical, detailed thing about the air quality, which I passed on. So again, if you've got powerful feelings, put put it in. Put it, absolutely put it in.
Yes, I get
Thank you.
that, but then at the moment, most of the other things are green as well because they haven't done anything.
Thank you. I think we've got a gentleman there. Oh, yes, Tony.
Tony Chapman here. At this point in the consultation, have they been able to estimate the number of lorry movements on and off the site and what direction they may take through tendering to get to the A120 Harwich Road?
Yes and no. The details are, so there is a bit of a complication as far as I can see with Thorrington, and many of you will know this, is that where the sand is mined isn't often where it's wanted. So if there's a housing development in Harwich, or there's a housing development in Chelmsford or something, the sand has got to leave Thorrington and somehow get to these places. As you come out of what would be the proposed site, a door or gates road, you come to a roundabout which may have to go or be improved. And at the moment, you can't even turn left, because if you turn left, you come across Alsford Bridge, where there's currently a 7.5 tonne limit. So at the moment, anything coming out of there either has to turn left, right, and go down the B1029 over the railway lines. And I think you'll find that the only other way is to turn right and go further down to avoid going through the centre of Great Bentley and go even further down into Clacton to get up to the A120. And I think that's why, I think I'm right in saying,
You on this one?
I think that's a red amber.
Yeah, I will do. There is one thing, Alan.
Hang on, let me just answer that first.
There's a gentleman.
Transport's green now. Amber green.
It's amber green.
Oh, is it amber green? Okay. Thank you. So it's already earmarked as a problem, but that's something that's going to be addressed.
Can I say something, Alan?
Yes, Jeff. 1 second. Let me do this.
It's already it has been known that a lot of heavy lorries have not turned right. They continue to go towards the bridge and then cut round the back in Alsford and come out by Sibbons. And there are more than one, it's several. They've seen them in a line. And I think there's a strong likelihood that I know they are required, if this goes about, to turn right. A lot will go forward and go around the roads to facing that way. Now the question is, will it be police? Your guess is as good as mine.
Thank you, Jeff. And if you do come in whenever you wish to, please do. I think we have a gentleman here first.
A hybrid question, I guess. So
Your name, sir, sorry?
Dan Marshall.
Thank you.
With the RAG being based on current situations, the transport doesn't really define itself. Is that congestion or noise? Because both of those should be considered separately. And why is it only taking it into consideration as things are now, not as they would be once it's constructed?
That's a very good point, actually, because it would make a lot of difference. Any comment, Alan?
I'm just looking for. You're right. It should be what it will be. So I think that's wrong of me to say that before, because I'm sitting here looking at some of the others which I've highlighted as key points, and they are all about what is there, but what is likely to be detrimental.
You have a policy change from a politician. Yes, madam. If you can say your name.
Jane Paul.
Yes, I know.
I've got a couple of points about what Alan said about air quality. When I read the documents, which I tried to do in detail, it suggested that it was green because it was a long way from an air quality monitoring point. But that's because it's a long way from, when it becomes bad, they'll have to put an air quality monitoring point in. But the other point is that all those lorries with the diesel and the dust that they're collecting and kicking up, they move that dust a long way away. It's not just a question of you being 20 metres away from it. If the lorry moves the dust moves with the lorry, and some of that dust is toxic. So we really have an issue there. It's the problem that they've had in London, and the evidence from the construction industry is that that's why people are getting so much asthma. The diesel fumes hold the dust down at breathing zone level, worse in the summer, and it all creates a really unhealthy place to live and to work. So I would like to see how we actually raise that. Any advice from you, Alan, about how that's
So that's the question.
incorporated? Yes.
Thank you.
I've just looked at the thing I was looking for was the section about the access,
Gentleman
which
in
I
the
think
middle,
answers your question.
waving.
And on access, it's red amber. So access to and from the site is already red amber. I think the answer there is to try and change it to red.
I think as well then, transport noise would need to be added.
Okay. Thank you for that point. Gentleman at the back.
Hiya, my name's Tony, I'm from Great Bentley.
Good.
Having a look through here, my biggest concern is that little small bit there that says health and amenity. That obviously covers quite a broad spectrum. I was just wondering really, is there any more detail what's been looked at? Like how would people be affected if they're living close to these quarries, if they were put in, for instance, for the silica dust, that kind of thing?
Again, that's a very good point. If you turn to the page before last of the report, there is some really good quality research. So as an example, on page 4, I'll read it because it's really quite important. It says, 2 residential buildings are adjacent to the back. Has everybody got it, by the way? Page 4 of the report. Everybody got it?
Can you read that one?
Okay, well I'll read it anyway. Okay, because it's quite important. It says the chap talked about what about the houses. So this is what's come out of that. So this is towards the end of the report. It says 2 residential buildings are adjacent to the boundary of the site. So that's within 10 metres. 56 residential buildings are outside the site boundary, less than or equal to 20 metres from the site. 22 residential buildings and 2 commercial buildings are more than 20 metres, but less than 50 to the site. It then goes on to talk about 2 community facilities, 1 place of worship, 1 community facility, 1 play area, 1 sports facility, 1 recreation ground, 6 commercial buildings and 203 residential buildings are more than 50 metres, but less than 250 from the site. This is the key bit. Given the proximity of sensitive receptors, mitigation would be required. However, the levels of mitigation required to ensure that there is no serious impact on health and amenity would likely to be difficult to achieve. So the report is already saying that because of what's already there and what's already likely to be there, somebody somewhere will try and mitigate them, but you can't mitigate something you were talking about. So that's not a done deal, but that's the feeling of the consultation. And in there they talk about a whole range of things. The one I had no idea about, and some of you may not, I hadn't realised that this site contains 11,000 overhead electricity lines, the mains gas supply to Brightlingsea, operated by Cadent, the local Anglian water fowl rising mains are all within the site boundary. So on that field that you're looking at, somewhere in there, there's a gas main, the pylons are up, is the electricity, and underground is the water. They could all be moved. They could all be, but you've got to make sure that when you do your consultation, you highlight those as being almost impossible Nothing's impossible.
Thank you. John, gentleman there.
Then the gentleman.
Yeah, John Malone, Brightlingsea. We've heard a lot about the problems with transport. Also, we're going to have an awful lot of lorries. The roads are already in a terrible state, with very little money being spent on repairing them. What about putting a requirement on whoever's going to be making millions of pounds out of this project, taking the worst case scenario, and it does actually go ahead, of having to put in a railway head? Take all this stuff off the road and put it on rail where it should always have been anyway.
We could get our railway back, could we?
Absolutely.
We'd all like that, wouldn't we?
But then don't forget,
You've got to get it from the side of the railway.
I think that would make a lovely
Right at the
consultation.
back, and then this gentleman.
So
Right at the back, that
yes, I
one.
got this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this one here.
we have also we have several hands.
Yeah,
So
I've done the next two.
and unfortunately, I think they thought there was 4 microphones, but we've only been given 2. So thank you.
Paul Longcroft, Great Bentley. I mean, I can answer the rail one because 90% of the rail is taken up by passengers. So there is no rail capacity with the containers that go out of Essex and Suffolk on the rail line for the sand to go on as well. They have got a railhead at Marks Bay, but that would still be all the lorries going through freighting. They have to turn then left at freighting to go on the A133 to Colchester, or they can go right at freighting traffic lights. So that means going on to the roundabout at Great Bentley, Rains Green, and then they're supposed to travel, especially for Harwich and whatever, up to Colchester on the way A120, turn round at the Ardley roundabout, and then come back down the other side, the same as SRC does already. SRC at Colchester, Ardley, already had in excess of 200 lorry movements a day, and it's only a quarter of the size of what this pit is going to be.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good point.
Very good point.
Gentleman here.
Should be emphasised.
And that should be emphasised. I absolutely agree. John, there's a couple of 2 or 3 hands down this end as well. He's getting there. He's getting there.
Right, it's this gentleman and then the one in the middle. No, this one next.
Sorry, you got 3.
All right.
I've sort of spotted it all.
That's all right.
You're doing a good job, John.
I've got 3 ahead.
That's all right.
Sir,
Hello, Megan Shed, Great Bentley.
Yeah.
Why is it that the marine or that the sand and the gravel is being drilled? Why can it not be dredged instead from sea?
You make a good point. The logistics. I was involved along with Councillor Scott and Councillor Chapman when most of you must know Clacton. As you look through the pier at Clacton, go down to Holland-on-Sea. That development there, where they built out rocks and brought in sand, I've got a funny feeling the sand came from Norway.
Yeah, I think so.
Was it Holland?
Holland.
Okay. And I got the rocks, but the rocks come from Norway. Okay. That was a monstrously expensive way of doing it. So the biggest issue with sand is the cost of the transport, and it's the cost of the transport from where it's mined to where it's going to be used. So lots of people have looked at dredging to pick up sand. As I understand it, it doesn't work. Just not economically viable. And of course, the big problem is stopping it ending up in Colchester.
You got this gentleman.
I know we have, yeah.
Behind.
Yeah, I know. We're getting to you. The gentleman here, then we're down to the squad here.
Hi, Daniel Shed from Great Bentley.
Great.
I've got one question and then one point. So the question is on biodiversity, and I'm just wondering if you know how they actually judged that, whether it was just like a day of turning up, because across multiple sites there are actually endangered species of birds and other species of animals that are prevalent on those sites, and the RAG rating has these as amber green. Now I don't see how that could be possible if they've actually taken into account those endangered species that are on those sites. So do we know if that was judged just by someone turning up on a day and not happening to see those species?
Okay.
And then the second point is just I'd quite like it to be known that a lot of residents actually feel, albeit that this is a consultation, nothing really went out from Essex County Council in terms of notification to local residences that would be impacted by this. It relied on people on social media getting the word out there, some parish councils being more active than others. And actually, I think that's how most people feel let down, is no communication went out to local communities that would be impacted by this site. And I think that's a really kind of disappointing, the most disappointing thing about all of this.
There is
There
an opportunity at the start of the response form to comment on the overall plan. It's
Yeah.
not in the RAG report, but you have an option.
You have an option to make that point.
challenge the plan.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
where you challenge that part.
Thank you very much. Good point, and I think it's very important. I think this microphone needs to come down this corner.
Listen, I've been waiting for 20 minutes for that question. It's the only one I know the answer to be honest. And you're taking me into a lovely world that I don't understand. In my kit, I got this. And this is the council assessment of hydrology and habitats, landscape and wildlife designations, and historic environments. So this is a map produced by the consultants in conjunction with Nature England, etc., etc. You're very welcome to it. I don't understand it, except that on there's a massive amount of data about flora and fauna, and I've been waiting for someone to ask me the question about what sort of research was done, and that's it. I mean, and this is consultation at the highest level. So nobody turned up with a butterfly net and said, "Oh, we've got some butterflies here." This is years and years and years of data about that.
Good. We finally got to our friend here. Yes, sir.
Do apologise. I'm a
No.
resident on Brightlingsea Road. My name's Les Brett. I'm really good at crunching numbers. So the number I've seen is the protected site is saying 105 hectares, 4.7 million tonnes. If you took down 20-tonne trucks, that's 235,000 truck journeys full. And then obviously they've got to come back empty. So there's another 235,000 truck journeys empty, which is a total of 470,000. We've got to fill the hole back up again. And the other thing is, I know it's a little bit irrelevant, but on the report I saw further down, it was stated quite clearly that out of the mining materials, 25% for Essex and 75% for London. That was further in the report.
I'll stand by what I said only because that's what I was told.
I read that in the report.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah. That was what I said at the beginning.
I'm happy to double check it, but that's what I was told.
As a lorry driver, you might be very busy on this one.
John.
Where are we?
Straight
Behind you
behind.
there, John. Lady there. I have to say, it's been very amazing because I brought my timer along to say, make people in less than 2 minutes. Not one of you been over 2 minutes. So. Oh, no, the lady.
That's not a challenge.
I'll start my timer. Hang on a minute.
My name's Karen Gould. I live in Brightlingsea. What I want to know is if this should go ahead, is where the inert waste or byproducts are going to go. As we all know, we have our own waste management site in Brightlingsea, which is a bit controversial. And I'm led to believe that any waste, whether it's not from Thornton, if it doesn't go ahead, but anywhere in Essex, potentially these lorries could be coming into Brightlingsea with this inert waste. Have you any ideas on that?
Yeah.
To be honest, Karen, I think it's way too early for that. But Alan, do you want to make
It's a good question. It's such an early stage of the consultation that I don't have. Nobody has an answer. I do apologise. Sorry. But the one thing I'm going to say to you is just be careful. The purpose of tonight is to galvanise people. If you make The purpose is to focus upon A74. If you make a statement about sand and ballast in general, all over the country, you're not doing yourself any favours, because what you've got to say is there is a problem with transport, exactly as you said, and calculate the amount of lorries and calculate the amount of business, and then add on to that the fact that half a mile up the road there's a 7.5 tonne limit. The alternative is to go down. So use that problem, whichever anybody. If we're going to do 4.9 million, if we're going to do 3.9 million tonnes a year, not we, but the industry is, those amount of lorries. What you've got to try and focus and say is transport of sand from point of mining to point of use is going to be a problem, but it's a particular problem here. So can you understand what I'm trying to focus? A criticism of sand delivery per se is okay, but it doesn't achieve anything. If you can say it's very, very, very bad here because of, then you've achieved something.
Thank you. Karen, you have 46 seconds. Very good. Gary Scott, the chairman of Tender District Council.
Thank you very much. I'm here as ward councillor for Thorrington, which also is Alresford ward and Ilston Market ward, but predominantly for Thorrington and Alresford. There is a problem is the bridge, the weight restriction bridge, but then that can, as Jeff from Thorrington said, the lorries can go down Wivenhoe Road, then turn off Coach Road and back on the B1027. The other issues is there are other areas in our vicinity that have weight restrictions. So they have to negotiate the lorries where they've got to go. Wivenhoe's got weight restrictions at certain times of the day. One on the B1027, the bridge has a weight restriction. So we have to look at the other issue you have to think about is where will they process this sand and gravel? Will they take it to Alresford or will they take it to other areas? So you need to bear in mind where are they going to process the aggregate. And the gentleman from Great Bentley is right. I mean, he wasn't consulted, he didn't get any leaflets. In my view, 250 metres off the site is frankly unacceptable. It's going to affect everyone in Brightlingsea, it will affect everyone in Thorrington, it will affect everyone in Bentley, and it will affect everyone in Alresford. It should really have been a complete blanket cover of the whole village, because people may live on next to the site, but the lorries are going to go past other people's properties that may not necessarily have got the letter. So in my view, it should be in a blanket delivery of a leaflet, a letter. Now we've got campaign groups in Alresford and Brightlingsea and Thorrington that are doing all the legwork, which Essex County Council should have done in the first place, and put the leaflets out, the consultation out across the board. In 2014, I understand my colleagues in Alresford, they managed to convince Essex County Council to extend the limit, I think it was about 20 metres, to 250 metres back then. Personally, it should be a blanket delivery of the said villages that will affect these villages. And I'm sure I'm under the 2 minutes.
1:45. 1:45.
That's a record.
That's a record. Going to take 2 or 3 more questions because we do want to just get to how to respond before everyone gets too tired. So there's a lady over there, and then we'll take some more over here, and there's one more at the back, I think.
Thank you, Lucy Johnson, Great Bentley. Could you say a few more words, please, about the next steps? Obviously, I'm concerned with about A68. I'm also concerned, however, about A88, A74, all the rest of them. I'm really, really worried that we have a cluster of 6 potential sites. There is really, really thorough peer-reviewed research that tells us that clusters of quarries, if together, massively increases the health risks relating to the silica dust and all the other things that we've talked about. It's the air quality. So if we get to a point later on where there is more than one site in our little cluster of 6 that has been selected, is there a possibility of appeal? I've already put in my objection. I have noted that the aggregated risks to air quality from clusters has not appeared to have been considered in the RAG rating, and I think that's an absolute catastrophic omission.
Very good point. I think very well said, and as our fellow here said earlier, you can make a response on the response sheet, which we'll get to in a minute. Alan, do you want to make on that?
A very good point, as you say, and to a certain extent, it already exists. If you live in Alresford, there's already two sites side by side. We've had Moverhams here for, crikey, who's the oldest in the room? Is it Steady? You must have.
Careful.
Steady, you must have. When did Moverhams first open? 50 odd years ago. 50 odd years ago. So you make a good point, but it isn't just the clusters. There are 16 within, if I count Colchester, if I say 10 miles, 15 miles from here, there are nearly half of the sites. It's mined where it is, this area, because it was I'm told this is where the glacier stopped. It stopped just outside Colchester. And just got to Tendring and thought, I'm not going any further. And dumped all the sand. So it's already there. It's already there.
Okay, lady at the back.
Sean Savage, you've emphasised that we can have influence by this consultation, and I want to know how the decision will be made. Is it based on the number of people that submit a comment, or is it based on the content of that comment? And then also you've mentioned that we can have influence on the RAG system, so we can change things from amber to red. Can you explain how that happens?
We've got a red pen here, if that helps.
Thank you, and once again, a good point. If you take the red amber or an amber or amber green, whatever it is, and it isn't to your experience, and you think you can add something to it, like we had over here, we had the excellent calculation about how many lorry loads, and the access is red amber. So you'd be saying, I think it should be red, completely red, because, and this is because why. So that's how you'll have the chance to influence. And to be blunt, if you've got a point that's that good, I suggest you all form a queue behind this guy and get his numbers, and then get the from yourself, and then over here, and repeat it. Someone somewhere has to make a decision how many of those 51 sites are taken forward, and for what reason. So, and the only way to get your point across, like that great point, that great point, and that great point, is for you to put it in, and then get your other mates and pals and wives and to repeat it.
Do we know roughly how many sites out of 52 they're looking at? I mean, are they looking at 3 or 4 or 5, or do we know?
Short answer is no, I don't know, because you could get one. There's a guy at the back who's desperate. I think, don't forget, if you've got a big one.
You've got 130 square miles in Tendring area. Approximately 22 square miles of it is to become, or could potentially become, its sandpits.
22.
That's the
Square
actual
miles.
numbers that you want to
Yeah, okay.
130 square miles in Tendring,
Yeah.
and 22, 23 of it will become sandpits if they get go-ahead.
Right. Okay.
That's nearly a fifth of the area.
Yes. Well, and that's the problem with having the sand belt where it is.
Yeah, I know it is. I know that. I get that. And to answer you a bit more about your why don't we use marine sand, Felixstowe took out 30 million cubic metres, 1.8 tonnes per metre, out of the sea and redid the dock at Felixstowe.
Okay, that's a point to put down. So I've got so many people queuing to make a point. I really want to come on with the gentleman who's been standing a long time. Thank you.
Hi panel, Nathan Baroni, Brightlingsea.
Hi Nathan.
So it mentions in here about the 10-year plan. As you say, Moverhams is 50 years. How long could this go on for, and what will happen afterwards?
What a good question. Let me just give you a couple of again, I'll repeat what I said. I'm not an expert. There are people that know. To get sand out and to get a licence, you have to convince the authorities that what you're doing meets the criteria for Essex as a whole, meets the criteria for our neighbours as a whole, is commercially viable. But what you've got to do is you've got to come out with a plan that says, and we're back to you here, the use of this site will involve 200 lorries a day. So whoever is going to run the site has to start off with the process, the geology, do we move the gas pipes? It then has to dictate at what rate it comes out. And this sounds odd, but it's not like that odd. Sand and ballast is a supply and demand. If there's to be a big house building blitz in the next 5 years, then it will go out faster if there isn't. But what you have to do, you have to tell the people that make the decision what the end result is going to be. So if you could now, and there are lots of them, there are lots of different results. So number one, we find the site. Number two, we get the right speed out. But then dig it out. Most of it's going to be washed, as I understand it, for the bigger ones. The washing is on site, so it wouldn't. It makes it cheaper to do it on site. But then you have to tell them what you're going to do with it. So Moverham's has gone through its life. Moverham's has gone through its life. The sand has been extracted. There's a couple of nice lakes, actually, there. I don't know how many fishermen there are in the room, but there's a few fishermen, probably. The public rights of way go through Moverham's, around it, back to the railway line. So you have to come up with an end result, and the end result for Moverham's is that they're filling in what is a valuable hole. It's a valuable hole to them. So that's all in the presentation from the sand company. It's them that will have to say, I don't know how many of you have ever heard of Thorpe Park?
Yeah.
Well, that was planned. That was a sand pit that was planned to have that theme park. Some of you may know, was involved a lot with water skiing. We ended up with Thorpe Park water ski site. 4 world championships were held there. We got the British Water Ski Federation got in early with the sand people, 25 years early. And not only did they dig it out, but you've been there, they dug it out in the lines that we wanted them to dig it out. So that was part of a plan. Now, I don't think we're going to have a water ski site at Thorrington, heaven forbid. But so that's part of the plan. It's how long. There is no set answer, because you start digging, you start selling, you keep digging. You don't do the whole site all at once. You do one corner, then you do another sector, then you do another sector, then you do another sector, and things develop. There's some wildlife streams. Moverham's got some lovely wildlife bits and pieces.
If supply and demand changes, could they turn left and come into the town and through the port?
I can't imagine taking. Don't forget, if you go down the creek, what is there down the creek? There's a wonderful sand, still in use, barge.
Yeah, it used to be some now.
Yeah,
Used to be 2 down there.
yeah, where they used to do exactly that. But the railways and boats are the same thing. You take it from the site that it's mined. You then take it to a boat or a railway station. The boat or the railway station train goes to wherever it is, and then at the other end you have to get it out again because it isn't where you want to use it in its ultimate place. So, great question, but not much of an answer.
You've got 2.
We have 2. Yes, sir.
Hello, good evening. Gary from Great Bentley. So you talk about how we can actually write against the colour of the rack system. So how can we actually provide evidence that along with our objection, because then it seems like we are going to write about it, about the lorry, how many lorries we're driving. So would that be able to include like pictures of the wildlife or traffic model simulation, with our objection? So how can we actually do that in that sense? And number 2, multiple MPs has actually addressed this issue on the proximity of residents within 1.5 km or roughly 1 mile from the residence, and we have like 6 around us. So including that might be multiple concerns of our increase of a health hazard upon those sites, because we literally have those around us already in Brightlingsea and also next to Great Bentley. And also number 3, there seems to be something missing in terms of archaeology on the site A68, where the latest LiDAR has shown that there's a missing Roman road on the north of, actually on the immediately south of the A133 road, and that was not included in the document on A68. So how can we actually suggest, how would you suggest we to go with the objection with the evidence? Thank you.
Very good point. And we are going to move on to how to respond in a few minutes. So maybe we'll
Got
get
2 down
to that.
here,
We've got
lady
2
in the
down
pink,
here.
and this gentleman. You're
You
right.
okay?
This
Nick
gentleman in
Johnson
the
here.
front.
Oh, lady at the front, did you want to say something? This chap?
Yeah.
Your opportunity.
Bobby Holland wants to know when the chalk houses are coming.
So Martin Jones from Great Bentley. I noticed on the categories up there doesn't seem to be a category of the end result for the site. It just basically measures it based on digging a quarry, but we need to look a little bit further than just the quarry, and so it doesn't really measure what that site should be after the quarry has been done.
Okay, that's in the future.
Make the point.
Yes, so do make that point. Mick Johnson.
I just wanted to say about
Hang on,
Mick.
Mick.
Oh, sorry.
I walk slowly now.
I didn't think I needed it. In answer to the marine sand, I think the problem would be it would require desalination, because concrete, dust and sand, salt don't mix.
Yeah.
So that would be further travels in lorries and further expense.
Okay. Any last questions before we go to how to respond? Lady there wants to say something.
Hello, Kelly Coppery, Clacton Road, Thorrington. I've lived on Thorrington Road for Clacton Road for 5.5 years. The increase in lorries since they've closed the bridge in Alsford is astronomical. Chap said that they've been diverted from out by Sibbons, which I think they are. The increase in lorries is horrendous. They're either full up, and I can't imagine the tonnage on these if there's ever been an accident, or they're completely empty and they rumble through the village. They vibrate through your house, they're that strong. Our house shakes, literally. Is there anything in place for, the gentleman was saying the number of lorries that are going to increase is going to be enormous. You walk around the village at the moment, the roads and the footpaths are littered with fist-sized lumps of clay, rubble that's stuck in the treads of the tyres. The footpaths are littered with grit and dirt and recycled glass. The whole village, the roads outside our house, it sounds trivial, but there's a manhole cover, I think they call it an envelope manhole cover. It's gone over twice already just with the lorries we've got now. Are they going to be maintaining those? It's been complained about hundreds of times by residents, it's been replaced once. If that was to go and a motorbike was to hit it, that would be changed straight away. But at the moment, they're not doing nothing about it.
And where do you live, sorry, again?
Clacton Road in Thorrington.
Clacton Road, Thorrington.
And also, I understand the access point's going to be the first field on Thorrington Cross. Absolutely crazy. Them 2 roundabouts there in the morning, there was an accident just after 8 o'clock this morning, 3 cars involved. To take one of the cars away, they had to close off Clacton Road. Everything got diverted to Station Road. If you've got the train lines down, they're shut for 10-15 minutes, and that happens, you've got all that build-up. There needs to be an emphasis on the fact that Brightlingsea has 1 road in, 1 road out. If anything happens and this whole village is shut off at all, they've got them hundreds of lorries coming out of there. If that site with an access on a double roundabout there, it's just, you've got the children come to school and all the double-decker school buses come from Clacton. Just emphasise them a couple of points, that's all.
Sorry, can you just tell me what your name was?
Yes, Kelly Copperwheat.
Thank you, I didn't hear it.
So
Thank
just
you.
a couple of points, if we could just bring them up, that's all. But,
Thank you very much.
We've noticed a huge increase in the last 5 years, enormous.
It's most important you understand that you must bring them up when you respond. But they are all vital points, and it's great to see such a great cross section of people from all areas here tonight, and we do welcome them. Thank you. Hang on, I just want.
Can I last one here?
There's so the lady from. So you're on the B1027.
Yes, yeah.
Thorington, the smallest parish is one of the most go-ahead parishes going, and they've recently purchased a vehicle-activated sign. The concept is good. If you're going over the speed, you get if you're going under the speed, you get a smiley face. If you're going over, you get a growly face. Well, that's a bit. It's nice. It's a good idea. But the most important thing is that every vehicle that goes past is logged. Not as a vehicle per se, but the vehicle movements. So all of a sudden, because Thorington put some money into the kitty along with Essex to buy that VAS sign, they now have evidence. They now have a stack of evidence about how many vehicles go over the speed, how many vehicles go under the speed, how many vehicles go over the speed at 2 o'clock in the morning. So you've got to get into your local parish, and you should be pleased with what they're doing. This is this team here, and they are using that. And so, anybody here from Alsford? Alsford have done exactly the same. Exactly the same. They bought the VAS activated signs, which are meant to just put you on your toe, but they collect the data. The data is there, so you can go to whoever you're talking to and say, right, we've got 400 lorries. You can do that, but you've got to do that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I think it's the last one.
We've got one more gentleman at the end there after this gentleman. So.
Justin Cooper in Thorrington, Brightlingsea Road, Thorrington. All I want to say then was that lady there, the gentleman over the back asked how to respond. That lady there just gave you an example of how to respond. It's how to weight your response. So that lady there just gave you the answer of how to respond against access and against transport. She stressed a concern about the weight of traffic. It might block Brightlingsea Road, it might stop ambulances getting about, they won't be able to police where the lorries go. So that is an example of how to weight your response against the red ambers and the ambers. And each one, you just need to work your way through them and think, right, okay, health and safety, how's it going to affect me? Weight your response. It's going to affect how I breathe, it's going to affect how things go in my garden. That's how to weight your responses. That's all I want to say. That's a really good response.
Thank you very much. Very good point. One gentleman at the end, and then we're going to go to how to respond. Sorry, Richard. Sorry, I thought it was a game show for a minute.
Come on down.
Right, me again. I think it's been made clear that the publicity for this has just been poor. If we're all from different places, we all don't want this to go in. If one goes in near me or anybody else here, is there going to be any correspondence to the residents telling them what the expected health risks might be of living in close proximity to these quarries? Because I feel like people don't really understand what all the risks are.
Thank you. Do you want to comment on that, Alan? Before we go to how to respond. Okay.
I need to put your mind at ease as much as I can. Again, repeating that I'm not an expert. The consultation that was taken part has included the references to the 50 metres, the 25 metres, 1.5 kilometres, and that's from people who are very well qualified in that knowledge. So if you think that is incorrect, that the 1.5 kilometres is a wrong number, then there's already the consultation that's taken place so far is using some of the data that they feel is available now. If there's more data, and over here we've got a lady that's very keen on alternative data, sure as eggs are eggs, she's going to come up with something.
Can I just make a potentially simple response to that? So yes, they're professionals and they've got the data, but that doesn't mean they care. On paper, that's fine, but there's no feeling or emotion or care for the residents. It's just stats, we're just numbers. So whilst I can understand that, it's not really relevant to us.
We have to live with the consequence, yes. Okay, we now.
Last word from Richard.
Oh yes, last word from Richard. Go on.
Last word from Richard.
Richard often makes the last word from the council.
Yeah, just I don't know that.
For the recording, you do.
The recording. Oh, they can record me. Yeah. Just 2 points. Who are these consultants? Who are they?
PCC. PCC. Have a look at PCC. Have a look at them online. They are a world-leading authority. They've done this exercise across the whole of the UK and Europe.
Okay, yeah. And the other thing is, we lose agricultural land, but we will need food with a growing population. So every time, you've got to be very careful that we don't lose too much agricultural land, because you're going to need food.
Good point, Richard.
That's one of the points.
That's one of the points actually on the thing. So we are now at the how to respond. So hopefully you've got on the back end of your copies here. It says how to respond. You can do it in two ways. You can respond through the consultation portal, which is in front of you, and obviously you can also email it. And we also have given out some packs here, and we have some application forms for posting, which we can get somebody to take out with envelopes. It's a free post, so you can, if you wish to use these forms, please just take one, and then you can send them through. It's most important. Right, so Jeff and Sheila, anything you'd like to add before we close the meeting for anything else?
Sorry, it's all right. Hi. Just one interesting point is that in 2022, I believe there was a private members bill that tried to introduce a limit on the whereabouts of where people lived in relation to the quarry, and they were looking at over 1,000 metres that they wanted, and the bill passed its first reading, which said unopposed, so obviously the parliamentary people agreed it was a safe thing to do. Unfortunately, it got prorogued. Unfortunately, it got prorogued and it has died a death. But it's a fact that they actually recognised there is a problem. So the politicians know about it.
Thank you.
So contact Bernard Jenkins.
Contact Bernard Jenkins, she was to say, yes. Where is he tonight? Any other points you'd like to raise on the how to respond? Everyone happy?
Sorry, David Flynn, Great Bentley.
Yes.
Thursday night at Great Bentley. Alan, will you be there?
Yes.
It's down as a drop into Great Bentley, but ideally we would like a presentation for you on Thursday.
I'll do whatever's required. I was asked to do I was asked to be there for 2 hours before the meeting.
Right. Now for the presentation, there's going to be a drop into Great Bentley.
Okay, well Alan's heard that, and he knows it's Thursday.
Will these forms be available somewhere else, like at the parish?
Yes, they'll be at the parish hall centre and the library, so you can pick them up at any time. But you can take one now if you wish. We've got.
Well, I was thinking more of the thousands of people that aren't here.
Yeah, thank you. So please spread the word for everybody when you leave this meeting tomorrow. When you meet people, just tell them about this and say, come to the parish hall or the library and pick up these response forms, because it's really important to understand. Every time somebody responds, it is a vote.
No petitions.
Oh, no petitions. They won't take petitions.
Well, they do.
They do, but it counts as one.
It counts as one, yes. So, lady at the back.
I just wanted to let you know that the form online doesn't let you attach images. So just going back to the questions about evidence.
Okay.
I spotted a muskrat jack deer,
Good.
which is protected under the
Okay. As you haven't got.
I've taken a photograph. The way I've managed it is I put in my form, I've got a reference number that came back, and then I have followed that up with an email quoting the reference number and sending my evidence. So I just thought I'd share that.
I will.
And that's a
So,
technical way that you
if everyone didn't hear that, what the lady's saying, if you go online, you can't attach photographs, where you can if you obviously send it by post or those way through.
And did you get it acknowledged in the end?
I both the email and...
It worked, did it?
Yes, I think
It worked.
I'm hoping it works.
Good.
Just to stress the importance of quoting the reference A74.
Okay, thank you.
Really important.
Okay, very good point. What you're saying is, do make certain you quote the reference A74.
Don't forget, and the other one when you're talking about Great Bentley, and the other one when you're talking about...
Okay, so if you're talking about Great Bentley or Alsford or whatever, you have to quote that. Ladies and gentlemen, I really thank you for coming. It's been a great meeting. I hope you found it interesting. I think we should say thank you to Alan Goggin because he's had to give us a good round to Alan Goggin. Thank you, Alan. It's been wonderful to see such a great audience, and I hope that's been of help and useful. And if anybody's got a question personally, Alan will be here for a little while.
Really?
Thank you very much.